In the name of God, the most gracious and compassionate.
Did Ibn Taymiyya claim that the world is eternal?
Some people have accused the Muslim scholar Ibn Taymiyya of adopting the heretical position that the world has always existed in eternity, but is also contingent and dependent on the eternal God. This is a false accusation. Ibn Taymiyya believed that it is logically impossible for this world to be eternal. He believed that this world is contingent and originated after its non-existence.
Did Ibn Taymiyya believe that all contingent effects must be originated?
Ibn Taymiyya argued that contingency and having an originated nature are two descriptions that always come together. He believed that every contingent thing must be originated and every originated thing must be contingent. Put in more technical terms, originatedness and contingency are mutually concomitant descriptions, and both serve as evidence for the existence of God.
Did Ibn Taymiyya use the contingency argument when arguing for God's existence?
Ibn Taymiyya considers the argument from origination to be stronger than the argument from contingency. Both arguments are sound roots for demonstrating the Maker's existence according to Ibn Taymiyya, but the fact that an originated substance must be in need of the eternal originator is more evident for Ibn Taymiyya than the fact that a possible existent must be in need of the necessary being.
How did Ibn Taymiyya explain the origination argument?
The origination argument defended by Ibn Taymiyya is the same argument mentioned in the Quran. Were they created by nothing? Or were they the creators of themselves? By a method of reductio ad absurdum, this argument demonstrates that an eternal creator must exist for originated things to exist. Originated things cannot be originated without a cause, nor are they the cause of their own origination. The claim that originated things can originate themselves leads to one of two impossible conclusions: a circular dependency, or an infinite regress of originators. It so follows necessarily that an unoriginated originator must exist.
But how can we know that this world was originated ex nihilo?
Some atheists point out that nothing is observed to begin to exist ex nihilo. They conclude from this that we cannot know for sure if this world began to exist and is in need of an eternal originator. It is crucial to point out in response that Ibn Taymiyya likewise did not believe that this world was originated ex nihilo or without prior material conditions. However, Ibn Taymiyya believed that the world was originated after its non-existence by God, and that it was brought into existence by His will and power.
How did Ibn Taymiyya define origination?
For Ibn Taymiyya, originatedness has a unique and intuitive meaning. It is to come into actual existence out of a prior material condition. Everything around us was originated in this way, out of prior materials. By extension, this world in its entirety was also brought into existence out of prior materials.
Is Ibn Taymiyya's view compatible with Scripture?
Ibn Taymiyya argued that God never mentioned in Scripture that He created anything ex nihilo. God created the heavens and the earth out of the waters that existed beneath His throne. Even if every material was originated out of a prior material in an infinite regress of material conditions, God's sufficient act of creation must still be needed to bring every creation into actual existence out of its prior material condition. The genus of creations would be eternal, but none of the particular creations would be accompanying God from eternity. God will still be the only eternal being, and everything besides God will be originated after its non-existence.
What does modern science say about Ibn Taymiyya's view?
Science today has demonstrated the truth of Ibn Taymiyya's intuition. As previously mentioned, Ibn Taymiyya believed that contingency and originatedness are mutually concomitant. It is impossible for the very substance of a contingent world that consists of multiple interacting particles to have existed in eternity. Rather, the fact that the world is contingent necessitates that its fundamental particles are subject to creation and annihilation. In agreement with Ibn Taymiyya's view, scientists today know that fundamental matter particles undergo processes of annihilation, whereupon they change totally into energy in the surroundings. The reverse is also possible: matter particles are created out of energy that exists in the surroundings. Such a change is not accurately described as a rearrangement because matter and energy forms are not identical. Rather, this is a case of substantial origination that fully supports the origination argument. Matter is created out of prior matter, and this calls for an eternal originator via the argument from origination.
Could early scientists have guessed that Ibn Taymiyya's intuition was right?
Even before the advent of particle physics, the truth of Ibn Taymiyya's intuition could have been known by scientists. It was already known in the 19th century that whenever a natural agent acts on some part of the world, there must be a flow of energy from one system to another. For example, when a man lifts up a log, some of the energy in the muscles is lost to another system, namely as potential energy in the log. As the man lifts up the log, something of his being changes into something else in another system. Now, if physical systems are subject to losing some of their existence to the surroundings, then, in principle, they must also be subject to losing their entire existence to the surroundings. The fact that something is influenced by an external cause means that it was at some point in time entirely originated after its non-existence, not ex nihilo, but in place of a prior material condition. This world fundamentally acts like raw materials from which the subsequent iterations of matter and energy are originated by God.
إن الله فالق الحب والنوى يخرج الحي من الميت ومخرج الميت من الحي ذلكم الله فأنى تؤفكون.
Indeed, God is the cleaver of grain and date seeds. He brings the living out of the dead and brings the dead out of the living. That is God. So how are you deluded?